in writing this book weak to your political base. This will, so I think that in writing the story, I'm hoping to, if he's reelected, to inoculate people know how to kind of push his buttons. This will make you look weak to your political base. This will, so I think that in writing the story, I'm hoping to, if he's reelected, to inoculate him a little bit, so that he's not that easy to manipulate, and to appeal to, maybe some of his insecurities and some of his predilections.
Lieutenant General.
Before we get started with Anna explaining this, I'd like to know, I wonder what it is that's making McMaster's, H.R. McMaster's, talk like this. I guess we're going to hear the rest of the story. He's right about what he's saying as far as like Trump being prone to manipulation. And I hope he means by the people who are devious, if you will, because that is true. But however, listening to your constituents is not manipulation. But let's see where this is going.
Well, H.R. McMaster, the gentleman you just heard from, served as the national security advisor in the Trump administration for about a year. And it turns out he just published a book in which he kind of trashes Trump's leadership and his foreign policy. Now, I just want to get this off my chest before I continue with what he had to say about Trump and what he was like in the Oval Office. H.R. McMaster is a neocon. He did not like the fact that Donald Trump wanted to pull American troops out of Afghanistan. In fact, he wanted the United States to have a deeper commitment, as he likes to put it, in Afghanistan. And so that disagreement on foreign policy, I'm sure, plays a big role in his disdain for Trump. But nonetheless, in his book, he basically paints Trump as this incredibly insecure, easily manipulated individual who's constantly seeking validation from those around him. So I'm going to give.
So the thing about a book that gets published that's allowed to say these kind of things, it's a half truth, right? I do believe that there's parts of that's true. I just think that it's very exaggerated a little bit. I mean, to say that he's like deeply insecure and all of that, it's like, what happens with these people is that now, you're writing books about me. I don't want you around me because you're very much comfortable with giving up my secrets or like maybe conversations that we've had. I have not read the book, right? H.R. McMaster's, I actually respect him as a person, believe it or not. And I'm not a neocon, but I think that word might be used a little too much. But once you start writing the books, it's like I can't even bring you back into my administration. I can't even trust you. But I guess I respect him as a person because of something that happened here and around where I live and how he dealt with it. But it's kind of always this. Somebody's always writing a book. And once you do that, I feel like you just now your loyalty, it's gone. I'm not one of those who believes in putting things out on Front Street, that we could talk about behind the scenes. I don't like attention-seeking behavior, if you will.
Give you his quotes in just a moment. But before I do, Cenk, any initial thoughts?
Hey, don't scroll away. Read your book and you know it. He wouldn't read any book. He can't read past the page, besides which he hates you. Secondly, you also try to manipulate him when you were in office.
Yes.
You try to manipulate him to stay in Afghanistan, starting bigger wars, etc. So please spare me. Having said that, these type of people, they usually lie in the context of war and press releases about war, etc. The anecdotes he's putting in there, I would be shocked if he was lying about them. And they generally fit the exact same mold as everyone who's ever worked with Trump, which is he's a freaking disaster. The details are upcoming.
Yeah, the thing that adds some merit to what he's alleging here is the fact that this is a very similar narrative that we heard from other former Trump administration officials. So
but does that make it all of a sudden true? When people don't like you, they all say the same things about you, right? They go off of each other. They'll remember a thing a certain way. Subjectivity is something that I almost don't like, but we're not robots, right? And so we have to have our emotions and our thoughts and feelings about things and how we feel about people. And I get it, bro, but it is so hard for people to compartmentalize a lot of things. I've had a boss. Let me try this. I had this boss one time, a long time ago when I was 20 years old, and she she always had something smart to say, as smart, like almost like she was trying to be more disagreeable with me. I felt like, anyway, but I had to hand it to her, even though I didn't like her attitude. She gave some pretty good advice, even when I didn't want the advice. But you'll have a lot of people who could have a moment like that with somebody and just say, well, she just kept trying to bully me. She's nothing but a bully. And not remember that, oh, actually, but she did say some pretty good things. She did get on my nerves for saying it. So that's both the same thing, right? But said differently. So it's just too much with the subjectivity to me. I don't like whining employees. I just don't. I'm not into it. I'm really not. Drop a comment below. Let me know. By the way, guys, if you do like this video, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and the notification bell.
Let's get to it. McMaster describes meetings in the Oval Office as exercises in competitive sycophancy, during which Trump's advisors would flatter the president by saying stuff like, "Your instincts are always right," or "No one has ever been treated so badly by the press." Look,
That's so sad.
It is sad. It is sad. But how many yes men has Biden been surrounded with in regard to the ongoing atrocities carried out by Israel in Gaza?
Not just that, on staying in the election.
Staying in the race.
Yeah.
Exactly. That is a great point. Thank you for bringing
Well, how about the other point that I actually do believe that nobody else has been treated like Trump in the press. And I believed that before I became a Trumper. I started to notice, like, I'm tired of hearing his name. That's what made me kind of become a Trumper, And when I say a Trumper, a person who does support a lot of things that Trump did. I have my issues with Trump today, but I would never call myself, not a Trump supporter. I absolutely was a Trump supporter. I still support Trump. I'm not going to support him in lies, but that's a different story. However, yeah, so, I mean, even my best friend, who's not even hardly into politics like me, though she keeps up, and everything, she sees the same thing too. It's not even about, oh, they're just pandering to him by saying it. It's true. So H.R. McMaster's is really making himself look like another one of those. I get it. The bills have to be paid. Some publishing company comes to you with an option. And look, again, the bills have to be paid. Maybe he's not, enjoying some of those benefits that he used to enjoy before. It's a shame, because I would feel like he's putting his family name in to scrutiny, to this just kind of blocked, this kind of, like, if you will, this I want to say a stain. It's a little too salacious for me. It's a little too, I want attention to me. But okay.
Bring that up.
So look, guys, I'm not worried about the ego and the deep sense of aggrievement. Those are very given for Donald Trump, and they're through the roof. But to Anna's point, Joe Biden's ego was so large that even as his own advisors thought he had a near zero chance of winning, he was like, "No, I'm the only one who could beat Trump. I need 2 terms to be his third."
It's a good point he's making. So what we're realizing is that we are living in, it's a false, like, it's a farce, rather. You know what I mean? A lot of this stuff is, what is it that I'm looking for? A lot of this stuff is theater. And that's what I don't like about it. That's what I don't like about it, but it feeds the beast, right? I mean, the theater of even Joe Biden saying that I could go on. And then he has all his people around him telling me he could go on, right? And they're saying this to us, and they're probably trying to prop him up because it was easy to get him to sign whatever paperwork they needed him to sign. But then you get to have the articles written about it, the content creation, everything. So it's like this machine that just churns out a bunch of lies and deception, and then everybody gets to talk about it. I myself am doing it now, although I talk about it in reality. On this channel, we will keep with the truth. But, it's just, but at the end of the day, the government is supposed to work for the people. I'm not saying trust government, but it is supposed to work for the people. I mean, we elect them and we pay them, but they certainly don't work for us.
Of Russian election meddling from the legitimacy of his presidency. He could have said, quote, "Yes, they attacked the election, but Russia doesn't care who wins our elections. What they want to do is pit Americans against one another," end quote. McMaster writes that the fragility of Trump's ego and his deep sense of aggrievement would never allow him to make this kind of distinction. And again, this is what ultimately ended McMaster's time in the Trump White House. McMaster's tenure in the White House seems to have been when seems to have been when he publicly said that the indictment of a group of Russian intelligence officers for their interference in the 2016 U.S. presidential election was incontrovertible evidence of Russian meddling in that election. And Trump tweeted in response to that statement, General McMaster forgot to say that the results of the 2016 election were not impacted or changed by the Russians. And so, you know, Trump was sensitive about that because he felt that allegations that Russia had meddled in the election was a way of delegitimizing the fact that he won the election. So that little tiff that he had with McMaster ultimately led to McMaster's ouster.
Okay, let me let Cenk go ahead and do what he does.
Yeah, I'm a blunt instrument, so I'm going to say something that some of you don't like. He's just too stupid to be president. So for example, Russia, did they work with Trump in messing with the 2016 election? No, they didn't work with Trump. Okay, we had a giant investigation. It showed that they didn't work with Trump.
No collusion.
No collusion. Okay, so did they mess with the election overall? Yeah, a little bit. They did. And did they want to pit us against each other? Yes. Do they still do that? Yes. Do other countries do that? Yes. So it's easy to make that distinction. Trump can't. The minute anybody says the word Russia, and now a lot of the MAGA guys are the same now. You just mention the word Russia, they lose their minds. Russia, 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 hoax, hoax. Just calm down for a second. What part of Russian actions are we talking about? Are we talking about whether they colluded with you or whether they should have invaded Ukraine? Those are two very different things. All right, Jesus Christ, man.
Okay, so Cenk, and this is why I can't take Cenk seriously again, because he has this deep-seated hate for Trump where he has to give it a certain way where Trump is still bad. Again, I have my issues with Trump. I have my issues with, I'm very disillusioned right now and I'm working through it. The thing is, maybe people get hypersensitive over the word Russia because we've been fed so many lies about Russia, people don't want to hear it anymore. And when there was really election meddling and there's evidence to prove where some of this stuff possibly could have possibly happened. I'm not even going to definitely get into, I'm not trying to get nuked. Nobody wants to talk about it. You know? Nobody wants to talk about it. Don't we deserve more as citizens than this constant, putting Americans against each other? Like he said, yeah, I understand exactly where it came from, and maybe H.R. McMaster's showed himself to be one of the sheeple who go along with certain things just to save their necks. And you don't need people like that around you. So, like I said, I respect how he moves as far as in his own personal life. It was something I saw that happened here. But this huge government situation with like 500,000 consultants and advisors, bro, we got to start hacking some of that off. We really do.